Welcome, everybody, to our budget overview, formerly known as Truth in Taxation meeting for this evening. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for coming, except for some of you. But anyway, I please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a couple of things about tonight. This is being live streamed and it'll also being recorded. So for those of you that do come up, be careful what you say because it's going to be living out there in well, for a long time. As far as introductions go, my name is Mark DeLayden. I'm the board chair this year, and I represent District 3, which is Eastern St. Michael, east of County Road 19, all about Seago, and about 20 homes in the Dayton that are along the Crow River Bluff area. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Commissioner Ketchmark, District 5, southern part of Wright County, includes 5 cities along Highway 12 and 9 townships.
Christine Hewson, District 1, so I have the cities of Annandale, Buffalo, and South Haven, the townships of Albion, Buffalo, Chatham, Corinna, and Southside.
Derek Fetch, District 2, Clearwater, Clearwater Township, Maple Lake Township, Monticello, Monticello Township, and Silver Creek Township.
And I'm Mary Weather, and I'm District 4. I have the city of Albertville, city of Hanover, the western part west of 19 of St. Michael. I have the city of Rockford and Rockford Township.
And the guy behind the curtain over there.
Hello, Lee Kelly, County Administrator.
Are other staff or not?
And Frank.
IT support.
He's the cameraman. So if you decide to go and look at this out on the web, the video recording, if you don't look good, he's the man to blame. Some of our other staff is here. Lindsay, why don't you start?
Lindsay Meyer, Finance Director. Heather Lou, Assistant Finance Director.
Franco, Accountant.
Bob?
Bob Eagler, Audit Treasurer.
Christine?
Christine Hartwell, Business Manager for Health and Services.
And Liz. Don't let her fool you, she's much more than that. After Lee upstairs, she's the second one. All right. I guess at this point we'll go over the budget overview, and then after that we will have an opportunity for public comment for everybody that wants to speak. Maybe.
Maybe. All right, I'll go over here if that works.
Yep.
So a few slides. You do have paper copies on the table out there if you are interested in taking this home with you. Also, please sign in, especially if you're going to come to the podium. You can ask all the comments at the podium and state your name where you're from. Does help.
Oh, Lee, excuse me, I'm sorry. One thing I forgot to mention. If you're here regarding the valuation of your house, that meeting is in the spring, not today. So if that's the case where you're concerned about what the house was valued at, there's a sign-up sheet up here and some business cards that you can grab and make an appointment to go see the assessor's office. Sorry, I should have said that earlier.
So again, just an overview of our budget process. Process that starts in the springtime of the year. Continuing all the way through the end of the year, we do have to adopt our final budget by December 30th. already adopted a preliminary budget based on what took place over the summer regarding the budget. And where we are at tonight is the public budget meeting, formerly known as the Truth and Taxation meeting, required statutorily to hold after 6 p.m. Again, as the commissioner mentioned, there are questions on the valuation. Assessor, sign up. Talking a little bit about the timeline with the taxes. As you mentioned, the meeting had already taken place. If you wanted to talk about your valuations, that takes place. We are now towards the end of this diagram. Working taxation meeting as it's stated. Then our final levy will be adopted, planned to be adopted on 14th. I thought it would be good to take a little bit of time to talk about your tax dollars at work, things and services the counties provide. So a few summaries here. We do have 512 miles of road, 39 county bridges, 700 plus acres of public land. We are responsible for public safety in Wright County. We are a little different in that we provide law enforcement. Almost all the cities in we also have 9 libraries that are in the Great Library System. We're responsible for maintaining, collecting vital records. This year and last year with COVID, we've been very busy, of course, with public health operations. Also serving those that financial and social services, as well as environmental services. Broke this down a little bit, kind of on a monthly basis. Try and demonstrate some of the things that our taxes work towards in providing those services. Highway, about $3.62 per month. Parks and trails, $1.57. Health. Response through the sheriff, 911 dispatch, $15.64.
Lee, that also includes the jail itself too,
Yes,
correct?
it does. Mentioned earlier, we do have 9 libraries in Wright County as part of the greater regional library system. Minnesota. County's contribution. Take a moment to talk about some of the projects that we're currently on. As we are moving towards the campus north of town, we are development of our current Health and Human Services Center, 525, as well as the development of the property that we're currently on. Large computer projects that we are efficiency, both resource planning or ERP projects, as well as CAMA, assisted mass appraisal system, and assisted land records. Did work through a lot of funds in the last year coming from ARP or the American working towards many things under that as we continue to develop our portfolio of projects, but some highlights are both broadband grants by partners, as well as providing grants for local municipalities for both. Things completed in the last year. Expansion of the Trailblazer Transit Building, adding some additional Buffalo. As mentioned earlier, there were a number of funds that came to us both from the federal and the state level that we administered dollars in the form of grants last year. A unique project that we completed for the first time this year was an inventory state. Post that out on our 2020 site. Post that document. Various services that we provided the county You're required or mandated to do by other entities, state or federal. Direct you to review. Kind of a summary overall of our mandated services. We have a large amount of what the county does that is mandated by they're required to provide. 76% approximately of the county's budget. That's by no means every. Our many core functions that provide by our constituents. I thought this would be a good kind of summary to provide an overview of things that we do and funding sources. So, in summary, with 2022 budget, set it for $164,800,000. That's the levy portion, or the 2021 levy. From that will be a 5.75. Is close to our estimated tax capacity growth. Important to note that the levy percentage is not property tax factors that can play in that. On where you live, city, township, or district, increases value of your property. Quick overview of the revenue budget. Note that about half of our revenues come from other than property taxes, whether that's aid from other entities, federal or state, charges for service, about 12%. Well, property taxes, those revenues. Spending side, good overview of the categories that all of our spending falls into. Others being, of course, public safety, highway operations, government. Arts. I also thought it'd be good instead of pie chart to break that down if it were $100 and how that would work as far as and we're updating one thing we've been focusing on in the last past year is budget discussion as we set our budget and levy consistent tax rate. So that benefits all residents as well as beneficial. In the last few years, we've tried to keep that from fluctuating down as it has in the past. I'll try to keep the budget at includes my end of the slides. Any comments commissioners would like to make or slides go back to for comments? Slides, if not, we can open up the board for public comment.
One thing I do want to add, we go through our budget process. Our assessors go out and evaluate a lot of different properties, but there are properties in the county that we do not assess or have a designation on what they're valued at. One of them would be the nuclear power plant. We do our budget, and then the state is responsible for telling us the valuations of those places. And unfortunately, they always tell us after we do our preliminary budget approval. And this year it dropped $55 million in valuations. So it'd be nice if they would get that information to us beginning of September before we get to the point where it's after the fact.
Well, but I would to that point, and if you, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
We still budget based on need and not based on capacity. Now, there is factors when we are doing our predictions. We do look at the impact to the taxpayers. As we are trying to maintain a flat tax rate, basically we're trying to keep the impact the taxpayer to be at CPI or below if possible, so that our tax rate over the long run is the same. But when there's factors like Xcel Energy having a reduction in their valuation by the state of Minnesota to the tune of $55 million. That kind of puts our methodology out of whack because we have to base it on the numbers that we have at the time, and when they make big changes like that, it basically changes that impact in our methodology. Because we were basically trying to stagger a lot of our big expenses, our capital improvement plan, and make predictions over a longer period of time so we can keep that linear tax rate.
Anybody else have anything to add? All right. Nothing else, Lee?
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our financial person, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Okay. Well, if that's the case, we will open it up for public comment. You're requested to limit your comments. I'm going to try and hold you to about 3 minutes, although there's not a whole lot of people here, so I'm not going to let anybody ramble on for an extended period of time. To do that, go up to the podium and state your name and an address for the record so that Liz can get that information. And that should be it. Who wants to go first?
I always go last.
I guess that's you, sir.
My name is Dan Hendricks. I live in,
Right, the mic's right there.
Right.
No,
Yep,
the
right there.
black thing on top. Nope, over, there you go.
Hi, Dan.
No, that's fine.
cataract surgery. No. Anyhow, Dan Hendricks. My mailing address is 6648 75th Street, Northwest in Maple Lake. That's on the south shore of Summers Lake. And Summers Lake is why I'm here. On my proposed taxes for 2022, the lid shows that 2021, and I talked to someone in the finance department here, we had a $20,000 chunk of money gathered from the residents on the lake. And now it's proposed for 2022 of being $30,000. And that seems to be extremely excessive. I am the past chairman of the board for the Lake Improvement District, and I question that. And I'm wondering, is anything that the lid does reviewed by the commissioners or by anybody in finance?
We get a report on their, at that year-end meeting that they have where they set those numbers. But the 30,000, that's for everybody
That's
on the
correct.
lake, right?
But that's a 50% increase in taxes.
Yeah, normally they show where that money is going
But
for.
statutorily, we don't have the authority to adjust their levy, I don't believe. So they just report it to us because, just like the cities report their levies to us because it goes on our tax statement, but they're their own separate taxing authority. So we're just, to us, we're just a collecting agency and a disbursement agency. We don't have any say in terms of what their levy amount's set at. That would be set at their annual meeting.
Mr. Chair, so did you talk to the Lake Improvement District people, or had a chance to do that?
I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody there other than, read what they post on the webpage.
Yep. And
And there's nothing there that explains why this large of an increase.
Yeah, normally they, as part of their process, their budget, they say what this is going for, whether it's additional weed kill or equipment purchases or something to that effect. But that's what, they have to state what it is going for.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I think that at the annual meeting, that's when they determine that. But I don't recall getting that, but we
And
could
is
have
there-
received the,
Is there any, like a quorum that's necessary to, vote at our annual meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
That would be
So if
in
we-
their bylaws.
So if we have 17 people there out of a possibility of 160, that's probably not what we want to do.
I don't know how their quorum is set up.
Yeah, it depends on what they have for their requirements.
For the bylaws.
And I don't know that
Bylaws.
there's,
I just wanted to ask those questions.
But Dan, outside of this, if you leave, I can give you my card and I'll work with you to find out some more information on it and to get the copies of the bylaws. I know if I reach out to some people over there, I can get that for you, and we can kind of talk through what's going on there. and get some
think the
clarity
attorney
for
would
you.
help.
So if you want to grab that,
Hope that has it.
circle back with me after this, and I can happily work you through after this meeting and,
Yeah, I'm
not
surprised.
tonight, but this week or so, we'll get it figured
Surprised
out.
they don't send a report out to everybody. I know Lake John, I just got their report.
We just got theirs, yeah,
They have a website, but I couldn't find it on there.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me.
Yeah,
Fortunately, I don't
Thank
have
you
any
for
good
letting
answers
us
for you right off the
know.
top here, but.
Well, we don't know what, the information is there somewhere, so. Leander, do you have anything?
Yes,
I heard he had a lot to say about Commissioner Wetter, that's what I heard.
Yeah, well, you know, he tells me every
some of you
day.
know, Leander Wetter, 180 Iberia Avenue, Southeast Buffalo. I've been unhappy with this budget for quite a few years, and we've got quite an indebtedness going, but probably why I encouraged Mary Wetter to run as much as I did, and we worked in it. But my biggest disappointment was when we were running for office last fall, and I was taking her around to some of the buildings out there of their $100 and some thousand million debt, and I see this judicious building with all these damn steps and a stupid handicap, I don't know where all it goes, and somebody that needs a cane, a walker, or a cart, and how many steps was there to get into Russell's on the Lake to get a prime rib?
One,
That's
the
right.
curb.
None. Wheel right in unless you want to sit by the lake. So my biggest grief is with all the money we spent and then we have something like that out there for that building. I think it's just terrible. Thank you for your time.
And also the steps being outside. Now, who shovels that
you
every
mean
day?
the ramp, you mean?
Well,
Going up to the
even the
Justice Center?
steps outside. You know, the maintenance on those steps in the wintertime's gotta be awful. Why weren't they put inside?
Because the expense is dramatically more.
Yeah, you would have been creating a huge
Well,
atrium over
they've
those
got
stairs.
it here, you know, the
Yeah.
steps are inside.
In here, and that's to go down, but again, we try to maintain buildings at the same level. And the ramp, I wasn't most pleased with that either, but the way the building was designed, unfortunately, we
Well, it
didn't.
wasn't originally, it wasn't supposed to be like that, but
No.
because of literally minute amounts of grade, made us have to move it, because you have to have, so much elevation to so many feet, and we had to move it to the side because we couldn't get the
Correct.
the lift in the front for it.
What they-
Definitely.
And they poured that 3 times?
Believe.
Yeah.
They had to tear it out and report 3 times.
And I'll say, as a well-known Rockford Township resident said to me, why didn't they cover them like they do here?
That's what I just said.
No, you were saying inside, but
Yeah.
I understand what you mean on the outside.
Something.
Good point.
I think in the future, it's going to be an expense that's probably gonna have to happen.
Well, something we can have a discussion with BKV, that what the hell didn't they think of that?
I already yelled at them
Okay.
at the convention.
All right, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Anybody else want to speak? If not,
Nice try.
no, it was worth a shot, Lane.
Can you turn the clock off up there?
Can we turn it off?
Yeah.
No.
No, we're gonna turn it on.
Oh, otherwise I have to do the scatter shot or quick 3-minute thing, and you have to write down all the questions that I'm gonna ask. And then you have to respond to them after I sit back down again.
Come on, Lane, have we ever shut you down?
I know. I don't understand where the 3-minute thing came on though. What did that spur from?
No, it's utilized at planning and zoning, it's utilized at some of the other meetings that we have. If this was crowded in here, would you want to listen to everybody for 10, 15, 20 minutes?
We're not giving you till midnight.
And you won't have to be tonight, obviously.
No, I
No,
don't.
he was joking around when he said
I
that.
know he is. I know Mark well enough to know that he runs a business.
Yeah.
He's got to learn, he's got to have a sense of humor if he's running a business, right?
Yeah, I
Especially when
do.
it's adding half a cent to sales
He's
tax
using his 3 minutes already.
or roundabouts.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go after the questions one at a time instead of having you guys to write them down.
And we will try to answer them.
Great. So Lane Roshan, St. Michael, I'll leave it at that. Mark, you mentioned that the nuke plant, the valuation would be $55 million less?
Yep.
And was that a surprise, or is that what was anticipated when it was, the planning was done back in August, September, or whatever else?
We didn't know
No,
that,
that number didn't come out until after the fact.
and it just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just recently.
So I see the tax capacity being like $200 million. So on the chart that I saw in the budget presentation, I mean, did that affect that? Is that wrong, or is that right,
So
or?
the capacity number is different than the valuation number.
Yeah.
So, and that, yes, that does drop down the capacity. Now, it makes a huger impact because Xcel Energy, their valuation only makes up about 7.5% of our total capacity.
Yeah, we've got-
And reducing, with their total valuation between the two main parcels is $800 million. So percentage-wise, $55 million reduction on $800 million is what? Everybody do the quick math on me?
About 8%.
8%. So now that basically, that 8% is a reduction of 8% of the counties.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it's a ding, but for Monticello residents, and the reason we said that is because I didn't know if anybody was a Monticello resident out here, if that other individual was, because Monticello people, when your nuclear plant makes up 68% of your total capacity,
Right.
That's a big number.
It's more of a concern there,
Yeah.
to be sure.
Yes. Yep.
But you gotta remember too, that that's commercial, and commercial pays more in property taxes than a residential does too. So it does, the irritating part is that we have to go through, we have to get these numbers to the state, and then afterwards, then they tell us these sort of things. So, and it's not just that. I mean, there's 4 or 5 other things that they do, the rails, and not that there's been any changes to those, but it's still, we wish they would provide it while we're in the process of a budget instead of after the fact.
What is the Association of Counties or our legislators doing to try to rectify that issue?
So here's the issue with it, is that a lot of the other state assessed properties is not an all counties issue. It's really an issue for about a third of the counties.
But it shouldn't be an issue at all, that's my point. Your point, too.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because there's a move from other counties, the other 2/3 of the counties want to take this state assessed value and say, no, that should get dispersed amongst all 87 counties. And we're trying to defend, like, no, we're the ones that are housing these coal plants. We're the ones that are housing these nuclear plants. We should have a benefit for them. And that's what the fight that we're trying to defend, that fight. But then there's also the fight of the state doing this game of reducing what these power plants pay because they're crying foul that they're thinking that they're being overtaxed. So we're defending multiple different fronts.
And yeah,
I can tell you a bunch of other ones that I have concerns about.
I'm sure there are, and I'm hoping our legislators are helping fight the cause, especially Marion. I'm
Yes.
assuming she would be.
I have a large number of conversations with her.
No,
Okay.
We have a meeting with them next Tuesday.
Alrighty. So, first of all, I should have said this. I wanted to appreciate and thanking people here for a higher level of transparency than has ever happened. I would be remiss in not saying that. It isn't to the degree that I would like, and I know that your ERP innovations, if you will help in that regard. I would like to, because I have this sheet, and I've reviewed it, and doesn't drill down to the detail I would like to see it, but at least it's better than what I've seen before. The fact that I could go on the front home page and I could see there's actually a meeting tonight, not that I couldn't look at it on my property tax statement, was also a plus. So I have to say that, because I got chastised here last year for saying things were there and they really weren't. So I'm saying that tonight. It's positive steps
I
forward.
appreciate that, because I actually went and had somebody look up how many people have accessed the budget 22 page since September 1st, which was even available then. But There was 30 people.
The internal or external?
It didn't tell me. I did not ask him to drill it down that much. Is that one page that he's showing, is that the only thing that we have up, or did we did have all the other drill downs?
No, we only had that one.
Oh, just that
You
one?
only have that one.
Yeah.
Okay. I needed to clarify.
Right.
Because I couldn't remember what we all had to put up.
On the plus side, it prevents pointed questions about specific drill down items. On the negative side, then you get different questions that are more generic in nature that tie to the budget overall. So you get one side or the other. That's the reason. I know, I realize that of the 30 people, I probably won, maybe I looked at it twice. You know, maybe there's not many people there. Even though I advocate for that to happen, for more people to come to the TNT meetings, and you know that's the case. Mary knows that's the
Yes,
case
I
for
do.
sure. One of my questions was on the budget itself. When I looked at the expenses for many of the departments, and I'm not talking necessarily about, I'll give an example. Court services is like $250,000, $300,000 more than last year, right? So that's off a $5+ million budget. That's 1.5%.
We transferred some of the placement fees from HHS to there. No, we didn't.
That was last year.
That was the year before that. Okay, so then, no, then there was something to that. Now I remember that conversation.
The payment of the beds.
Oh, the bed contract, yes, because we fronted money, because what we happened is ERJC now we front the money forward and we get the savings on the back end. It's just the way the JPA worked at it, because before the other partnering counties didn't like when at the end of the year, they would get a huge bill and they didn't know how to budget for it. So now they wanted to basically get billed worst case scenario, and then they get the money as like turnbacks on the backside now. That's just the way the new JPA went.
That's the juvenile corrections.
No,
Yep.
I wasn't picking on any particular
No,
department.
I just want to make sure I could answer to what it was. I knew there's a.
I mean, that wasn't the point. My point is, what I see from a numerical standpoint is that there's an increase of 6%. That's the question I have, and what was the justification for 6% being the increase? Not any specific
In
department.
that note, there should have been like a footnote on the bottom that says, anything that's above like a big jump like that should have a footnote that's like, hey, because of this factor, it was largely because of this.
And most of the departments are 6% plus. And that's my question is why?
Wages
Wages,
and insurance.
yeah, that's our biggest expense.
We are dealing with 7 different unions. We negotiate for 3 years at a time, and between step increases and cost of living, it ended up being 5.
You average it out, it's like 5.25 or 5.5 over the 3-year
I can't
period.
remember. And we had a 7% increase in health insurance.
You all understand that from a private sector standpoint, how that logic works. You know that, Mark, working and having private business.
Yeah, and in Minnesota, and this goes back to what the state requires us, there are certain things that Minnesota requires that no other state does,
Equity law.
and it makes it much more difficult to do negotiations. And we have to do 3-year contracts because we're dealing 7 unions. If we went in at 0% right now in this economy, we would be hard placed to replace any of those people.
Right. So I'll put this in different perspective. While I'm sure I know, because I know all the board members on STMA, I certainly know the superintendent very well. If it weren't for the fact that the STMA the levy was not voted in, there would be a lot of people in St. Michael that would lose their houses or have to move, one of the two. And all I'm saying is, I always say when I get in front of here, is government shouldn't grow faster than the rate of inflation plus whatever growth is being experienced in this county.
And the growth this year was 5.75%. Is that what it was?
Well,
Yeah, the CPI.
Our growth, our population growth was 6.6%, correct? 6.6%.
Valuations.
Okay, it's
But the valuations was, yeah, it's a little lower than we
Well, the
thought.
capacity growth was 5.59, but, so, laying to that point here, and I agree with the wholeheartedly, because is it sustainable? No. A lot of the stuff that's going on out there, but you tell that when you're going into a union, binding arbitration. We don't even have the final say on it, on a lot of our union negotiations. And at the end of the day, we get what we get, and you know, you don't have any choice. And that's where you struggle with it when you're 50% of our budget is driven by personnel costs. And now you have the binding arbitration on a number of our unions, and that's tied, and what we give there is tied to the whole pay grid from a pay equity law. So, I mean, so essentially they control what the pay rate is in an indirect way through this arbitration process.
I'm not denying any of that, and I knew the answer before you even
Yeah.
said it. You knew, I was, as I would say, pimping you to see what your thoughts were on it. But what I was going to say was because you get into then the subject of mandates as a direct consequence of what you said. And Mark has heard me say this a few times to him. I want, because I know the Association of Counties isn't going to do anything about it. And I'm asking the board members, the commission here, to push after some of the mandates that are costing the property taxpayers of this county as much as they are. So I want to know which mandates, now that they've been identified, they've been put on a piece of paper, even though that they're at almost like the 30,000 foot level versus the 10,000 foot level. At least it's something, right? So what mandates can be overcome that are costing the taxpayers of this county so much money?
You know, Lane, sometimes it's not actually the mandates that we need. In the world we live in, we have to have some mandates. We have to take care of certain things. The police officers, the sheriff's office, call it a mandate. We need those people. The jails, we need those people.
Right.
Health and Human Services, whether some people agree or disagree or not, we need those people to help those that are either less fortunate or have other issues that need help. The biggest problem I have with the state level is not that those mandates, it's that the way they make us utilize them, report them. We're dealing with software at the state level that are actually even before DOS was. Green screens, DOS level stuff. And the states have tried to have the internal people redo some of that software and have been absolute disasters. Good example, in case of the one that was very in the forefront of everybody, was DMVs, where it was just an absolute nightmare.
The Minlars.
Yeah, Minlars, thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it. The Health and Human Services have been dealing with it ever since we've been on. Now, it's been 10 years, and they've upgraded, and it's actually made it worse. They have to copy, they have to cut and paste so much different things. There's so many workarounds. And a lot of it goes back to what the state, the way they do things. Just like in property tax, there are 67 different property valuations.
Over 50 in Wright County.
So why they do that, it's the Minnesota Nice thing. And again, all the different programs that Human Services puts out, they have different amounts for what you qualify for. Instead of across the board, and they actually have, Christine, do you know how many they used to have, and they've cut it back to so many? Now, they've had some improvements.
Were you talking about the eligibility requirements?
Yeah, there was what, 60, or I don't remember anymore. There was an incredible amount. I think they reduced it by 20 or something. But it's still, it's Minnesota Nice is what it is.
Can't do everything for everyone.
No.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that neither the Association of Counties nor Wright County would,
Pardon me?
through the legislators that we have, and I know nothing can be done until something changes at St. Paul, But given that there's not going to be any effort to push back on any mandates?
Oh, we have.
So,
Every meeting.
Can you name a couple? That's what I'm asking.
I'll happily, on ones that I'm personally working on. One of them, I just had multiple meetings this week having to do with the state assessed property, and I don't know what you know about ratio relief. So counties are responsible from the assessor's office, we have to be between 90 and 100% of valuation.
105%.
All right? And we struggle right now because getting good comparables for commercial property is hard in Wright County because we just don't have a lot of sales from commercial properties. And this right now, the language in the law is so, I guess, the burden is super low that forces us to have to use like 6,000 square foot commercial buildings as a comparable for a 30,000 square foot building. And that's like comparing apples and oranges.
Right.
Okay, so what ends up happening then is they fight and they go to tax court, and those findings then play against our ratio of 90 to 100%. Now, what happens if we get found to be below 90%, if we get to be 89.9, that triggers ratio relief. And you know what that means? That means that everybody then in the commercial property tax world gets a reduction of 10% to bring them back to 100%, even XL Energy. So that means XL Energy gets an $80 million reduction in their value. And we have never been worried about that because we were able to manage it. But as of recently, because there's so much influx in the working from home world and the dark stores, that commercial values are very complex to calculate right now. So we worry about that. So what I'm working on doing is trying to unmarry state assessed properties, that's their power plants, from being able to get ratio relief because we don't even assess them. So to me, they're almost segregated in their own group. But right now, they qualify for that. So that's one thing I'm working on. Another one is in the special session, they worked on some language for some homestead exclusion changes, but that is still loosely, and I don't think it got modified enough with the increased home values that have jumped exponentially over the last 2 years. So trying to get the homestead exclusion to be more in line with the consumer price index for real estate values, that's another piece that I'm working with. There's other ones that we just now, because we have this mandate, we were able to actually track back what our cost share is between state and federal funding on more of the HHS services on a little bit more of a finite level. I feel confident now that I can start making some conversations about that. I haven't done that yet, but it is on my radar to work on.
With HHS and the software, we've actually had them show our legislators and local senators what is required to change a name.
Or address.
Address, sorry, yeah, it's the address. And how many pages they have to physically go in and change it.
Like 26.
You would think you enter it once and it's done.
Yep.
And it's not. And we have complained to them every year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still dealing with it.
Well, just like you guys do, I go down to the Capitol every single year, one day, as I call it, a day of penance. And Mary knows
For them or for you?
I consider it a day of penance to go down there.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if it was.
I make it there a lot more than that.
And I've seen him down there. So I know he's down there sometimes. But anyway, my point is, as part of our effort through our BPOU, we'll push after certain things if they're really, really important. And it's something that the consensus of the BPOU gets behind. Mm-hmm. So I know I've asked, and I know, Mark, one time, a number of years ago, you were kind enough to share some documents. Now that you have, or getting close to an ERP system here, I would hope that we could identify some of these things so other groups besides the commissioners could push behind it. And not just talking to our Wright County legislators, but I'm talking about talking to other legislators. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I've given you the comment. One of my concerns that's cropped up, I learned this summer, is that there's a quasi Met Council type, maybe not the right thing, group that is in Wright County. Can you share details of this and
So I'm guessing
what the
you're
future
talking about
plans
the
are?
Central Mississippi Regional Planning
That would be
Partnership. Which I laugh at that because it's a myth that we've tried to debunk so many times. Literally, the group is I know when you use the word regional planning, people think APOs, they think Met Council. The organization has zero taxing authority. It has zero planning and zoning authority at all. It's literally a group that we're meeting together to share our land use plans because it used to be the Highway 25 Coalition, and because the Highway 25 Coalition could not come to a agreement on where a new river crossing should be, so we had to go about it in more about looking at land uses, and with that, we realized that Seago's making their land use plans, not thinking about their partner in Monticello, and Monticello isn't thinking about Big Lake. So when you have to have connection points of things, you have to start having some holistic discussions so that it is harmonious when it gets to that point, when it gets developed together. And that's where we're looking at it from a transportation, before when we went to looking for a river crossing, they were really looking at it purely from a transportation perspective, not thinking the fact that, well, this is okay because right here, this is all field on this side, but this side's residential. That doesn't work. So we had to go look at it and where was trunk lines? Where was, what was that zone on the north side? Was it commercial? Was it industrial? Was it residential?
Have you gone to the website for that?
I have.
And does it give, in fact, you stopped at my shop and talked to me about
I
this.
certainly did.
That's why
I wanted to get a.
I knew I heard about it,
You and I talked about it.
yeah, but I knew we had discussed it before. I
Yes.
couldn't remember if it was last year or if it was this year.
I just figured this was the right venue to get to more articulation about it.
Yeah, did he get your question answered?
I'm still uncomfortable because it's all dependent upon the whims of the Wright County Board, whether that
No,
particular quasi.
No, it's
no?
not on the whims, that you got another county over there
You have
too.
Sherburne County, Wright County, East Monticello, Big Lake, Becker, Silver Creek Township, Monticello Township, Becker Township, Big Lake Township. Each one of them has an equal shared vote on that board. So it's quite a large voting entity.
You'll never be able to overcome it.
Trust me, when going into this was a very conservative area. That was a conversation that went on for months at nauseum almost. But we also realized that if we don't sit down together like this, there will never, ever be another river crossing, ever.
Yeah,
Is this particular group lobbying people at the state capitol?
I don't think
We
so.
can't yet
Yeah.
because we can't agree on a location, so. Because that's when we engage MnDOT, but they're like, well, we're happy to have conversations, same with the legislators. Do you have a location yet? We're like, no. They're like, well, get a location, then come back.
Is this the intent, though, to go down and lobby?
That is their intent is to be able to go down and help solidify funding for a future transportation corridor.
Lane, how many more questions do you have? I seen somebody else just came in,
And I want to defer if somebody has questions. I'm fine with that.
and that's why I just was curious. No?
Okay.
He could be up there for another hour.
And with
No,
that,
no.
So, but there, Lane, but to that same point, we realize that we need to, because it's a long game. I mean, we're not gonna get a bridge in a decade. I mean, it's gonna be 15, 20 years. Look at the Dayton group with Dayton Parkway. They've been going at this for well over a decade to even get to the point where they're at, and they still don't even have their bridge crossing yet, but they're much closer than us.
Since there's such opposition from what I'm seeing from y'all, is this something that can be, a resolution could be passed to ensure that future councils, commissioners feel the same way or cannot do anything to do exactly that? Because many people,
They
including
would have to
myself.
you have to literally, so how it would work to be able to get an APO, you'd have to get every single one of those entities to agree to join that as a taxing authority entity. And, I mean, even if two of them say yes, it doesn't happen. You have to get all of them.
I understand. I just don't want it ever to happen.
I don't either, but I mean, the likelihood is, I mean.
We
super-
could all vote and say that, yeah, we don't ever want to, that there's no way this will ever happen.
You can't marry
But
future boards.
in 15 years, a different board could come in and you'll be dead, I'll be dead, and who knows?
No, I'm getting younger every year, sir.
Okay, good, all right.
Trust me,
Tell
that
me
was
the
a
secret.
conversation. You can't put something in there that would tie the hands of future boards. Nope, so at that. to
But
that
with,
effect.
with this in place, it also helps keep Met Council out of here.
That it does, because we have all of our own, it shows that we have our own planning taking place collectively, and we're looking at collaborations from water, sewer, broadband, and those are the things that if we can't articulate that ourselves, that gives them leverage for Met Council to just come in and gobble you in.
Oh, I understand that that's what they could do, absolutely.
So there is no appetite in Sherburne County or Wright County to ever join Met Council.
No.
I don't even think they could get one vote to make this an APO, that group on the CMRP board, based on the discussions of all the, trust me, I've been on it, chairing it for 3 years now.
So I think we've beat that question.
Yes. So, and it's hard to pick apart the budget enough or the presentation enough to know how many federal dollars came to the county in what buckets they came in. And I would call it fiat money, of course. That would be my term for it.
You want to talk like CARES money, ARP, COVID-related funding, or do you want to talk about
My
just
concern
standard?
is I understand one-time fiat money being applied to whatever the issues might have been. I understand, even though I may not agree with all of it. I understand. What I'm concerned about, just as I'm concerned about with the school district or the city or the state of Minnesota, is how programs get developed and they get baked into the budget long-term because of one-time money that was given to the county. So can you talk about that?
So we didn't create, we were very careful to make sure that we didn't create positions, because those are the ones that have the ongoing expense. We did not create positions or programs that would be funded through ARP or CARES funding. All the ones that we're doing, we put it either towards approved infrastructure. We've used it to reimburse ourselves for incurred expenses related to those vaccine pieces or PPE or other things that we needed for that portion of it, or just additional staff time that we had to related to public health or
And a lot of our money we gave other to businesses,
funded a
and
lot of it out to other entities.
we gave it to school districts and
Right,
businesses.
Now, Lane, I think to answer part of your question, and I know it happened in public health, and I don't remember what year it was, but there was some mandate that came down, and we were given so much money. And we went forward with it, with the understanding we had to hire somebody for this position. But that person, if the funding ever dried up, that position would be removed through attrition. So we try not to hand tie ourselves to free money for a short period of time on a permanent basis.
So I'll restate what you're saying, is that there's nothing, because there are going to be multitude of variants probably coming down the road. Omicron is just, variant du jour. Be something else coming down the road, because that's just the way that type of stuff works. What I hear you saying is that there may not be any more federal dollars coming, who knows? Because heck, the federal government's now at $30 trillion in terms of the overall federal debt, and everything they send out is all borrowed money. At some point, rationality has to come into play. If in fact there is another Omicron, I could come up with a different name to it. I got to think about what that is, something that's funny, but it isn't there right now. What would the county do in a situation where there is another crisis where you don't have the money coming in from the feds in terms of fiat money or the state?
I will, Mr. Chair, can I speak to that one?
Go ahead.
So right now, we are actually in a very healthy position for the fact that we are building a fund to purchase our bonds off early. Because we want to get to the point where we can have sustainability with the ability to actually have taxes potentially go down if we can buy down things. So at that point, we're building a fund that we're hoping to be able to buy off in 2027 a $30 million bond. So worst case scenario, you just keep making the bond payments, and you could use that funds to pay for such a crisis. So we wouldn't have to initially go to the taxpayers for that crisis. So we're in a good position as far as that goes. As well as the fact that in addition to that, we don't sit at the bare rung of fund balance either.
Well, I'm getting close.
Well, the other thing is too, is that we will do the best job that we can with what we have available to us. And, you know, the issue is when you have something like this, is that a lot of people are out, sick, can't work. You know, so we're even doing more with less people to the best of their abilities. And there's going to be mistakes made when you're short people.
We had a lot less fuel costs in the last year.
Yes.
Speaking of that, because I know that, you know, all the sales taxes that are generated from that, did the county decide to nix the half-cent sales tax? It's still out there?
It's still out there.
For how long?
We haven't had the final meeting on it to approve or disapprove of the extension of
It
it.
expires date December of next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So December
2022.
2022. And the thoughts are? Don't know?
It's,
There'll be a public hearing on it.
yep, there will be a public hearing on it where we'll be bringing it forward to a vote on it.
Should I get John, what's his name? No, he was agitated about the building, never mind, different guy. My last question is, I saw what are considered innovations, the ERP system, which actually I'm in agreement with that. You and I, Mark, you and I have talked about county being more transparent and having better information for people to work with. And I saw broadband as perhaps one of those innovations. I'm not sure that's necessarily a government function, but okay, somebody's got to do it, right? So that people have access to the internet highway. What other innovations are going on at the county?
Other innovations? Well, we have a new RMS system that we're working on the sheriff's
Define
department.
RMS?
Records management system.
Uh-huh.
So it's
Is that innovation?
innovation, yes, it is, because it's going very different from where we were at before. This one's going to be much more robust.
Hopefully.
Wait, our innovations, I guess you could talk about other side of the ERP. I guess, like, how cutting edge are you talking? Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do from a lean approach. We're working on areas that we're trying to do as much cashless payments and touchless payments. We're trying to put as many things online to be able to facilitate services online where before you had to do it in person, but a lot of it, we have to do it as the state allows us to do it, because so many of the things that we do are state mandated services, and more often than not, the state doesn't give us the tools to be able to allow us to be able to done online, and live it's done HHS, so.
You know, when the word mandate comes out, how I kind of do one of these, you know,
I'm not passing the bucket, but it's the honest, it's just literally that's how it is.
But we are trying, with some of the news, with the softwares and that sort of stuff, to do as much online as possible. Simple things as complaint forms for planning and zoning we're working on. What was the one thing we were talking about doing so that
well, we're going to do online building applications.
Online building. There was one other thing,
Online
too.
complaint services through P&Z.
there was one other thing that I thought was kind of neat that we were talking about here the other day.
We're looking on online training for election judges.
So
There's-
I'll bring it a different way. Does the public know about this?
We
No,
educate
we
them
don't
as we
want to
roll
let
them
anybody
out.
know.
You want anybody to know?
We don't want to let
Except
anybody
me.
know that we're being conservative and efficient and using their money
Here,
wisely.
there's a budget out there, right? And it's even in the PowerPoint presentation that we all looked at. The word innovations is right there. I saw it. I read it like 3 times. I tried to misspell it. I tried to make an anagram out of it, but it didn't work. My question is, so why not share with the public what the goals are from an innovation standpoint with the public that are out there? Put it on the website.
I think we have, I thought.
We stabbed at it because this brings us back to a conversation that we had when we came out of the strategic planning and trying to really articulate things that we're going to go after. And then literally a week or two later, we're sitting in a room with COVID and
Yeah.
trying to send
We're shut
everybody home, and
down
it kind of
less than a week later.
So one of the things
All bets are off.
one of the things we're looking at is consolidation and trying to improve the efficiencies of different departments and stuff. So we are working on it.
I'm just saying, you know me, I use the T word all the time. And I think if you can be as clear as possible, you're elected officials, and the county works for the taxpayers in this county, why not share what's going on?
And I think when we hired our,
Holler.
John Holler is,
Oh.
what's his position?
Communication specialist.
Communication specialist.
It just needs to be a one-page sheet.
Well, and I think we're getting a lot
get a
more
lot-
out
we
there.
get a
We
lot
got
of
blasts
information
going
out there.
out almost daily on different things that are happening in the county and things that
On
we're doing.
Facebook, sure.
Pardon?
I see them on Facebook.
It's Facebook and it's also on the county website. I
Also on
think-
the radio, the local radio station, they'll have blurbs, off and on.
Yep.
And
We,
that's just it, Lane. That was one of my gripes when I first came on the board, that we're not finding out things. But we had the same problem on the SWCD. How do you get that information out there? Because people are busy with their families, they got the sports, they got, their jobs and all this stuff. And it seems like people just don't go onto the website. They don't, if you come across it on Facebook, they'll skip that entry and not read it or whatever, so I don't know.
wasn't
We've
that-
always had problems.
at the retreat, wasn't that something that was
Yeah.
one of the things you brought up?
Yep.
And we talked about it. How should we do it? Should we do it with a newsletter? Should we do it more blast? You come up with an answer, we'll do it.
I'll think about that.
We can only, I mean, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. You know, how much more information can we put out that nobody wants to look at?
Yeah, and that's,
People are on information overload, I guess, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mark, I'll take that challenge on and think about that.
And in fact,
My car needs vacuuming in the next couple of weeks, and I'll come into the office and talk to you about it.
you'll have to vacuum it yourself, because we don't do that. But
Why
anyway,
can't I have Mr. Vetch do it? I'm just kidding.
I could. I'm good at cleaning.
you haven't seen him vacuum. I have,
Oh, okay.
so you don't want to.
Go ahead.
The other thing is, we're working on that new website too, which is supposed to be a little bit of improvement. And we have talked about having some members of the public look at it before we push it out. Try and, is this better? Is this worse? What are your suggestions? We know where to look for stuff because we're in it all the time. We were trying to make it more user-friendly. I mean, some of it has to be because of federal requirements for ADA and that sort of stuff on a website. But we do want to make it user-friendly. Derek and I were both looking for the compost facility. Well, it's under planning and zoning, so we went there. Well, we couldn't find it. So simple things like that, we want people to tell us, how can we improve that to make it easier for people to find? And again, all we can do is make it as easy as possible. Whether they want to look, there's nothing we can do about that.
Agreed. Agreed. But then you might prevent a couple extra questions at truth and taxation meetings.
Not from you, never.
Oh, well. But I'll just tell you one little story in regards to the levy referendum that happened in November for STMA. When a specific chart was posted on Facebook, and I hate Facebook, trust me, but there's no denying the power of it. That particular chart got 16,000 hits. So if it's meaningful and it's presented in the right way, you'll get people to look at it. But it can't be overly wonky. It's got to be something that's pointed directly to people, and it's got to be so they understand what's going on. It's especially important as far as I'm concerned because the commissioners still meet at 9 o'clock Tuesday mornings. It's especially important for communication and transparency to happen in a situation like that where people do not have the time to, or it can't be there.
Which is one of the reasons why, from when we got on the board, it's taped, it's live streamed. I mean, you can't tell me that people, if they have no interest, can't see it. What was the biggest viewership we've had on the videos? 158? Somebody wants to see something, it's there, and they can go back 2 years, I believe it is.
Hey, you get 2 thumbs up from me because we've been pushing after this school district in STMA to do that for 10 years, and they haven't gone there. So I'm happy that the county allows that to happen. Absolutely. You just can't ask questions live during it, that's all.
But, Mr. Chair, and to that point, and you wouldn't, even if you were in person, you wouldn't be able to because it's not, unless there's a public forum comment piece, which the county, we don't have a public forum comment piece on our agenda. So anything would be just listening anyways. But Lane, I love the fact that you come here and you ask the hard questions because it keeps the integrity of the system. I mean, I cheer you on, keep fighting the good fight with this because otherwise things will never change and who knows what would happen if people like you don't come and don't ask and don't do these questions. Who knows what would happen, you know, so.
It's a civic duty, as again, it's a couple hours of penance, as I would call it. That's all I had. Thank you much, unless you wanted to ask some questions.
You've only had a half an hour.
I
But that's
know,
good,
and I
that's good, don't go ahead.
I still have 3 minutes left by the end.
Sir, did you have something? Nothing? All right. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add? Any other additional comments?
Just one thing, Mr. Chair, as far as getting information out there, I want to point out, since this is going to be taped, to watch for the official county paper, because they give an account of the minutes that's not a particular editor's own summary, but it is a lot of accurate things about, it doesn't just say that the board discussed, it says that, you know, maybe we weren't all in agreement with something, but it's in the fine print in the back of currently the Howard Lake Journal. And a lot of people across the county don't know. They think that the paper in town, because it's called Wright County, is official county paper, but the meeting minutes aren't there. And that can change by contract, I guess. There's bidding and voting on which paper
Bidding
it
every
is.
year, isn't it?
Yep, we
We
bid
always
every
go
year.
with the lowest bid.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's an additional place that
Yeah.
what we're up to is in there.
But the Wright County Journal Press does provide a lot of information too. I know it's
All the
not spelled out minute, but they do hit a lot of the higher points.
And all the
Better than
county
nothing.
papers have articles about, don't they?
Articles, but if
No,
no summary
right.
of the meeting minutes, that's another thing.
The Kroger News doesn't.
They don't.
Well, even the meeting minutes are, if they look at the website and they go on and look to the right there where the meetings are, you can look at the minutes from the previous, meetings, so
All right, so,
there.
again, nobody else has anything? Nobody else has anything? Anybody up here have any comments? Any of the staff members have anything they'd like to add? About how nice your 5 commissioners are and you wish that we would be up here forever?
And just think of those poor snowplows out tomorrow evening or
Lee,
whenever it
anything?
hits.
No, sir.
All right, then thank you again for all for coming, and those that are at home are going to be watching on a video, thank you. And please call us if you have any questions, and talk to Derek Betch. We are